I'm Ben Trowbridge, CEO of Alsbridge, and if I can get my clicker. I want to talk just very quickly who we are as a company for context of really why you might want to listen to my remarks. Today we're the number one outsourcing advisor in the market. We're also the number one network procurement consultant, at least in the North American market, doing global network procurement. We have a benchmarking business. We've got a variety of service lines and have been doing this for a while. If you look back at outsourcing and you kind of look at integrated outsourcing, integrated BPO, and you look at the shifts back and forth, there's really been a number of very interesting shifts historically, and we see them being repeated again today. In fact, some of the first outsourcing contracts that were done, the first recorded one, which was done by our chairman many years ago, Mort Meyerson, when he was then one of the senior execs at EDS, before EDS was acquired by HP, with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And it was a fairly simple deal. I shudder to think, as an outsourcing consultant, it was only a two-page contract, which takes a lot of money out of the consultant's pocket today. But that contract was very simple. You, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas, are spending about 25 cents a claim to process claims. This is way past all the non-competes and NDAs now, so we can talk about it. EDS, will provide you integrated outsourced services, including the claims processing, all the IT, everything, the new system you need, everything for $1.15, $1.20 a claim. Hugely more expensive. But we'll save you about $5 a claim. And based on a handshake, that was one of the first deals. Outsourcing in that integrated form has went in and out of fashion over the years, and believe it's been driven now by companies like HCL, who are market leaders. It's been driven by waves of technology as that technology came into vogue, and the cost of invoking that technology was higher, the cost of change was higher, which oftentimes has opened up the opportunity for an outsourcing firm and or a client to engage on a more complex manner. As the technology becomes easier to adopt in each wave, you see a lessening and more of a separation. And although it keeps getting redeclared as new, in fact, it's a repeat of a cycle. Today, we have a wave of technology that many companies are accessing, even financial services institutions who would shudder and tell the regulators they don't. But somebody somewhere is accessing cloud and doing something somewhere. And those services are driving a need, and that need is driving opportunities for price changes. And I want to talk a little bit about price. As mentioned before, we look at price in all forms of outsourcing and network deals. The integrated outsourcing market today does not have real standardization. It's classic. It's not like the legacy server market, legacy mainframe market. Pick those that are fairly dependable price curves in there that you can predict X percent of reduction based on unit of power per year. The integrated market, when a firm is buying or selling that, is much more mercurial. And you see transaction-based pricing, FTE pricing, various kinds of bundled and even outcome-based pricing. For one of the gentlemen that came up here today, I bet you there's even a cost per lead, there's all sorts of other marketing-based pricing that's going on today with a lot of the sales volumes that are created. The metrics are becoming more sophisticated as a part of this cycle. You can see it maturing, but the variety of business processes that are being involved with integrated outsourcing are so wide that you only see, if you may, industry-based metrics more so than functional-based metrics. Examples of that would be in mortgage, various kinds of mortgage processing, in credit cards, some other things like that. But it's increasingly easier to have a more predictive model, again, as this matures. Two major types of benchmarks that you might see out there, again, for context, and we'll jump into some of the discussions. FTEs is the fundamental underlying core that most everybody, even in a process or integrated outsourcing, that clients will oftentimes try to, if you may, decompose the price and want to take it back to an FTE pricing. That may or may not be interesting or relevant, but in fact it's done. Benchmarker, if you have a benchmarker involved, can adjust and provide some correlations back to that, but it may or may not be helpful to you to do that. If you're going after process benchmarks, they're going to, again, vary greatly by process, performance bands, quartiles, predictive data becomes very, very important as you look at that. The last message I have is around disparity of price. The slide you have in front of you shows an example of the total cost of pricing in millions of one particular deal that's being benchmarked. And you see the low and the high of the market. So this is an example of a market. I've purposely have taken the exact units of measure off of it. But you see a pretty wide disparity of about 0.75 up to almost 2 million on this one exact example, with a market price being about 1.5. That's a huge disparity, and doesn't mean that the green bar is in fact the right price, nor the low and the high right. But it has a number of messages for both the providers, for HCL that's here today, and the buyer. The green bar represents the price actually that a client is happy to pay, feels it's a good value, and is willing and thinks they're not being charged too much or too less. What we find is sort of a scary trend as representing the buyers is perhaps half of a bidder field will come in at that low blue bar and reset the price at that price, which is in fact not really the market price, and will drive prices down we think at too steep of a curve. Too steep of a curve takes all the profit out of for the provider, removes all innovation, and you create if you may, a commodity cycle. So my one plug for this is that benchmarking saves margin, not takes margin away. And it's just something for both buyer and seller to think about here, of keeping clarity and price open and available to both parties, so we can keep value in deals and keep value in whether it be an integrated deal or non-integrated deal. With that, that's my piece, and look forward to joining you on the panel.